If you haven't seen the video from last week, then please pause this one and go see the newer slider one before. This is actually part 2 of the how to build a 3-axis motion control system. Thanks to the newer slider, I now have the opportunity to automatically move my camera constantly along one axis, which you can see here in the last video. But unfortunately, I can neither automatically keep a certain object as a target, nor, for example, let the camera pan itself around a corner. So I'm actually missing a so-called motion head for it. That's why I looked around what kind of, budget-friendly options, in that case rotary motors, are currently on the market. And that's when I came across the Australian company Syrp and their small rotary motor that can actually do everything that I need. Hello, Genie Mini II. Don't forget to consider liking and subscribing to this channel. This is highly appreciated and helps me grow this channel to my goal of 1,000 subscribers until the end of 2021. As the name suggests, the Genie Mini II is the second iteration of the Genie Mini devices, which are not only smaller than their bigger brother, the Genie, but also extremely simple in its build. The first version still had a few minor troubles, and according to other reviewers here on YouTube, the build quality was pretty much so-so. But with version 2, that has changed completely. Except there's still one point that eliminates the Genie Mini for some filmmaking situations completely. But actually more on that later. Overall, I have to say that I am very satisfied with the combination of my slider and the Genie, which I have right here. Basically, the Genie Mini II was actually built for time-lapse, and basically it does that quite well. You can use the app to choose what kind of time-lapse you want to shoot, connect the shutter cable between the camera and the Genie Mini, and that's actually it. But as you may have guessed, I'm not really into time-lapses. I specifically only ordered it as a video head, and 98% of the time I only use it for that. There are 3 explicit things that convinced me to prefer the Genie Mini II over all the other possibilities and combinations that exist out there, and I want to go through all 3 points so that you can make a decision at the end if you actually think this is a good solution for your needs or, well, not. The actual first point on my list is something that combines 2 different things with each other, namely that there is an app control that works relatively smoothly. In the last 4 months since I actually bought the Genie Mini II, I had neither crashes nor any disconnections nor problems with the latency between the input on my iPhone and the Genie Mini II. And secondly, the Genie Mini II has an integrated live control. In my case, this means that I can simply run the slider with the Genie and the camera on it in a loop, and then manually control the Genie smoothly like a video game controller with my iPhone. Also very interesting is that it always has a slight fade in and fade out, which makes the shots look very nice and smooth in the end. Second point, keyframes. Okay, here we go. This right here is the main reason why I actually choose the Genie Mini II. According to Syrp, you can set up to 10 different keyframes in one go, but I haven't actually tried that yet. I mostly only use 2, the start and the end keyframe. As I would not have expected otherwise, the Genie Mini II is a time-based motion controller, and the Genie does that really well. Of course, it's not the fastest motion controller, but basically it just has to be as fast as my slider goes from point A to point B to create a nice parallax slide, and that works very well in itself. But this is also where something comes into play that I had not considered or known before buying the two components. What I knew is that the Genie Mini and the Neewer slider cannot talk to each other. Like, for example, something from the Edelkrone or from the Rhino systems. That means controlling them with the same app is not possible, and you have to actually set both systems separately from each other to do their respective motions. But as I said, I was aware of actually that. But I hadn't considered, nor did I know, that the Neewer slider and the Genie Mini II calculate their durations of the slides actually in two different measuring units, which complicates the whole thing to infinity until you get used to it and then can actually wrap your head around all of that. And now it's getting a bit complicated, but I hope you can actually follow me through this, as this is actually the point which the decision is made whether you want to buy the system that I got here or whether you want another slider or Edelkrone Rhino, probably a Wise the Onion package instead. Okay? Okay. The Neewer slider calculates the speed it needs from point A to point B in percentage, whereas the Genie Mini II calculates everything in seconds. Well, let's do an example right here. I first want the slider to cover its entire distance in 100% speed. Then I click actually on that. Now I let it drive from point A that I've set to point B, and I measure how long that actually took in seconds. When he's finished, he goes back to point A, and when he actually gets there, I set the Genie Mini's first position to where I want my camera to look. Then I let the slider move back to its second, in that case B point, and when it gets there, I set the second viewing point for my camera on the Genie Mini. Then I click on OK on the Genie Mini app, and after that I can set the time that the Genie Mini actually should take from point A to point B, which I measured beforehand through the slider. Then I'll actually let both devices go back to the beginning, and when I'm done with that, I try to simultaneously press onto both go buttons on both apps' devices so that they actually start at the same time with the movement. Well, this sounds complicated, but it's just a matter of getting used to it, and in my opinion, rather the problem of two different systems and not the problem of the Genie Mini II. If you only want to let the slider move at, like, let's say 50% speed, then the whole procedure that I have described simply takes 5 minutes instead of 1 minute because of the frustrating waiting times. I think the whole problem can actually be solved by choosing a slider from the same brand instead of the Neewer slider. In this case it would be a Syrp one, or another slider that does not work on a percentage basis but on a time basis, but I don't know how to actually find that out. And now I come to the actual problem that a lot of other reviewers talked about, which is not a problem for me especially, but which probably throws the Genie Mini II straight out of the list of potential motion controllers for other filmmakers. Well, it is loud. The motor is not a stepless, brushless motor and makes noises with every movement. It is clearly audible. Here's an example. But in its defense, the Genie Mini II is not actually a video head, but a motion head designed for time lapses. It doesn't really matter how loud the engines are, it's just impractical if you buy it for what it clearly wasn't built for, in special situations like close-up interviews where voices are recorded. I recommend a clear distance to the sound recording source, and then the head should only be moved very slowly so that most of the noises are avoided. For all other types of recordings, In my opinion, the Genie Mini II is absolutely suitable and does its job very well at it. I mostly use it for B-rolls, commercial shots and story-driven solo shooter scenes. But we've only been talking about one Genie Mini the whole time, so here is the actual second reason why I preferred it to all other motion control variants out there. It can be combined with another Genie Mini II and a bracket that actually holds the whole thing together. Since the Genie is equipped with a positional sensor, it recognizes whether it should be the pen in that case or the tilt motor, which makes the whole thing pretty easy in the end. Connect all three together, open the app and connect them with a single click and voila, there you go. Here is your ready and working 2-axis motion control system, and then put it onto your slider and voila, you have a 3-axis motion control system. And it actually works exactly as I hoped. Here are a few shots of the combination of the 3-axis motion control bundle with the slider. So in the end, if you feel like building this kind of system for yourself for a relatively small amount of money, which is somewhat more complicated but still super practical and above all much cheaper than other 3-axis motion control sliders, then go for it. In total, with a bit of searching on the web, you can get the whole system, including slider and the Genie Mini setup, for under 750 euros. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but it's not. I got the slider for 260 at a discount and bought the two heads separately in used condition directly from Amazon for just under 190 euros each, and a bracket for another 100 euro. That's dirt cheap, normally they cost 260 upwards. That means in total I paid 724 euros for an 80 centimeter long slider and a 3-axis motion control system. And if I look around on the interwebs, this is the same amount of money others would only pay for the slider. Overall, with a few drawbacks, for me this is an absolute alternative to other motion control systems. Thank you very much for watching. My name was Leech and I'm off writing the next script. If you've enjoyed actually what you've seen and consider buying the same system, then consider buying it through my links in the description. This greatly helps me reach my goal of getting more independent over time and making this more than just a side project. So once again, thank you very much for watching and have a great day. Until then, goodbye.